I'm a widow.
Now you are.
I'm live. Okay, we're ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, we probably have a few more joining, but we're going to go over some real basic FT8 operation here and then look at all these support programs that that could run simultaneously and give you a lot more information, especially automatic logging is really handy. We got the FT8 running here, the WSJT-X program, version 2.2.2, I think is the most recent, and you should always upgrade. They upgrade these every couple months, and always check and make sure you got the latest version running. So for anybody not familiar with how this works, we're monitoring all these stations coming in on the left side of the screen here. Up on top, we're looking at a 3 kilohertz window, and there's probably about 30-35 stations coming in here. Each one's occupying their little slot on the band. This is a very busy band. This is 40 meters tonight, and I'd actually have a pretty hard time finding an open spot here. If I wanted to transmit, I'd probably want to move down here and get my red cursor in this dark area. I'd have a better chance of getting through. So all these stations are being decoded and showing up on the left side. The right side monitors the green cursor where I'm listening. And already I have a little bit of action where I'm set up here. So I'm gonna try to give somebody a call here that's got a good signal. Let's try this. We'll try this Cuban station. So this is a CO2CV. He's transmitting his call in his grid square EL83. He's got a signal level of -4 dB, which is pretty good. Single digits are good. Even if they're minus, if they're plus, they're really good. So we're listening to him with the green cursor, and I'm transmitting in this area with the red. And there's a lot of congestion there. I don't know whether I'm going to get through. We'll see what happens here. And if not, I'll change my transmit frequency. If we still don't get through, we'll give up and move on. Okay. In fact, I'm not even getting him now because he's getting buried under all this congestion. This is a busy band, bad time of night to do this. I'm going to relocate, try somebody else. Let's try this guy and switch on. He's sending us a -2 signal, so he's even coming in better. He's got a little adjacent channel problem here, but not too bad. The brighter these colors, the stronger the signal. So he's got a little competition, right? Just down frequency a little bit, about half of his channel, but he's probably got a good enough signal to break through. So we'll see. If this doesn't work, we'll go down to, we'll go up to 30 meters. It'll be a little less crowd. Okay, here he is. He got us. So he called CQ, HB9 SNR, gave his grid square JN36. The program decodes Switzerland. I called him back with my call on EN91, our grid square here. He received me, sends my call, his call, gives me a -09, so I'm not doing as well as he did, but still not bad. I come back and give him a 2. He gives me an RRR or an RR73 or a 73, depends which button he pushed. I answer him back a 7.3, and we've got a completed contact. And that's all there is to an FT8 contact.
What's the difference between different colors?
Okay, the colors, the colors are all programmable. And anytime somebody calls me, I've got it set up in this bright red. Yellow is when I'm calling. The rest of these, we don't have time to go over, but some of these are usually the ones in green are calling CQ. If they're new and they're a new country, you'll see them in blue. So there's all kinds of options with the colors. It's too much to get into right now. So we just made this contact. We got to log this guy. So here's my N3FJP logger. I got to manually enter all that stuff. And that's really a pain. Diane, that's pretty much what you do, right?
I just go with the little box that comes up and put it okay.
Okay, this box right here,
Yep.
is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so you build that ADIF file, then you transfer that to your logger later on?
No, I do it manually, but
Okay.
it's in there.
Right. So if I click this, it's going to add it to the ADIF file. Okay, and since I don't have the other, since I don't have JT-ALERT up and running, it didn't show me any kind of failure there, which I thought it would, but I don't have that running. So I'm going to have to go back later on and manually log him. So I'm just going to make a note of that here. So we're going to move on to JT-ALERT, which offers all kinds of extras and really makes this thing a lot easier. JT-ALERT's got a million options to it, but when you download it and open it, just install it and open it, it's pretty much ready to go. So Diane, do you have enough room on your screen for this rectangular box? And it is adjustable. You can
I just normally have the waterfall and the screen that you have up, and it takes the whole thing.
okay. Well, you got your choice to do what I'm doing here because I've got a pretty wide screen here. You can relocate that down at the bottom. I think you can size it so it's about half that size. So you'd have to see where you want to locate it, but that's all the JT-ALERT takes up for you. So right now, it's monitoring all this traffic on the left. And we got more color codes here. Someone just joined.
Yeah, Keith.
Yeah.
Hello, Keith.
Hi. I had trouble getting in here. But I'm here.
Hello, Keith.
There he is.
Okay. All right. Keith, have you ever run FT8?
Yes, I did it today.
Okay. So you know how to click and make the contacts?
The problem is about 15 minutes in, it suddenly says, I got a rig control error. And I hunted for a way to get rid of it, but I found out if I plug my USB thing into a different port, sometimes it comes back on.
Okay, yeah, it's very important that you get a good connection to the rig because you have to have rig control on here. You can cheat if you know what you're doing, but it's really rough. Does anybody use this without rig control? Yeah,
I don't know if I use rig control or not. It just works.
Okay.
It just doesn't work.
Let's take a look at this for a second. Under settings. Okay, over here under radio. Do you select your radio?
No, when Baji set it up, we put none because when we selected the radio, it was not working right. So it just says none.
Okay. Then the only problem you're going to have is when you think you're on a certain frequency here, you may be on a different frequency. You know, if you stay within the 1500 and 2000, you're probably okay. So do you use split frequency on your radio or just simplex?
Just simplex, just one frequency.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little more difficult because if you operate anywhere other than the 1500 to 2000, the radio is supposed to start dropping down 500 hertz to compensate for that. It really only wants to transmit tones in the range of 1500 to 2000, so it doesn't generate any harmonics. It will work, but what kind of radio do you have?
I have the ICOM 706.
Okay, I've never
And
tried
it
this on
says
this.
it's 7074 on the screen here, and it'll say 7074 on the radio when I'm on 40 meters.
And if you turn the dial on the radio, does it follow the frequency on the program?
Yeah, well, yeah, if I go to 20 meters or something else, yeah. I changed the FT and I change over here.
Okay, so if you okay, I'm gonna back out of here a second. If you change down here to 20 meters,
Yeah.
your radio will change to 20 meters?
No, I manually change it.
Okay. Yeah, you really need to get that hooked up. It'll work much better for you. Do you have one of those adapter cables? They call it the CIV? Yeah, that's what you need.
No,
Okay. It'll work much better for you if you have rig control. So again, under the settings here, you select your radio and select your baud rate. So we won't talk any further about that. The one thing you do have to set up to make this work with JT-ALERT is the reporting tab. Well, prompt me to log QSO. I think that works with or without JT-ALERT. But this UDP server, I think these numbers here are default, but you have to have these 3 boxes checked. And that's really all you need to do to get WSJT-X talking to JT-ALERT. So it's pretty darn automatic. So we just brought up JT-ALERT, and it's reading all this data off of the left side here. And what I like about JT-ALERT, it gives you some extra information here. Here's a station out of Hungary, HA7TM. It gives you much more information about him. It shows that he does Logbook of the World. It shows that he does EQSL. You can also tell this by these little flags here. So here's this K7CA. It also gives the state, which is nice. If you're looking for a particular state, that guy was Nevada. And a lot of times Nevada is something that people want. So every 15 seconds, obviously, this updates. So by the time I quit describing it, it changes, or I don't quite get to the, okay, here's K7CA again. He's in Nevada. He's got a little flag up here to the left. That means that he's good on Logbook of the World. And I really like, if I'm chasing DX and one guy uses Logbook of the World, another guy doesn't, I like Logbook of the World. You can also set this up with EQSL. It'll put a flag on the other side here. I do EQSL. I answer them, but I really don't send them out except at the end of the month, just so the other guy has it. I don't collect any of the awards or anything. But it's nice to know what the states are, and whether they're Logbook of the World or not. Then that makes them a little bit more of a catch. You know, if you're on 10 meters or 12 meters and you see something like Maine or Tennessee, and you got short skip, you know, you don't get to work those very often. So this gives you a chance to go after them, because WSJT-X does not show what states they are. Now, the other thing we got here, we got all these yellow highlighted countries here. And if I turn on the alert, and we'll wait for the end of the next 15 second window here.
New country.
Okay, everybody hear that? New country?
Yeah.
You can set up a list of what countries you need per band, or what
New country.
what states you need. I'm going to shut that back off. I really don't need all those, but I just put them in the list just for the demonstration. I thought we'd get some Europeans tonight, which we are. You go over here to the settings in JT-ALERT, and I use the wanted DXCC alert setting. And it takes a few seconds to come up. If there's a call sign I want or a country I want, I'll fill in these windows. So over here on 40 meters, I've set this up as a demonstration. I need Afghanistan, I need Argentina, I need Australia, I need Belgium, I need Canada. I really don't, but I put them in there so we get a little action on the screen here tonight. So as you work them and get them confirmed on Logbook of the World or get a card or an EQSL, you can take them out of here, because once you get them, you probably don't want it bouncing up there again. So this is programmable per band. I can jump over to 80 meters here, and I don't have a whole lot of them in here. This is really a secondary setup I'm using, so I don't have these all up to date. But this sets up the DXCC wanted list. So going back to 40. A minute ago, we saw Belgium and Croatia, and I think France was on there. So that's why we got that alert that said, you know, new country. And what's nice about that, if you're busy doing something else, you can let this run all day long. If you hear in the background new country, you can stop what you're doing, come over here, and if you're looking like a DXpedition, where they're only going to be there for 2 weeks and not going back 10 years later, this is a nice little alert to give you a chance to get them without having to sit in front of the screen all day. You can do this with VE provinces, U.S. states, continent, zones. This thing is very configurable. I'm probably using about 10% of the capacity of it. But this feature I like to use. So we're going to get at it. All right, Fred, do you use something like that, or is yours more automatic than that?
I've never programmed any of that into the JT-ALERT. It is always running. It's coming up like you have it at the bottom here.
Yeah, so those windows I showed you, you have to manually enter. And I don't go in there and take them out until I get the Logbook of the World confirmation, you know, a day later, a week later, a month later, whatever, or I get a card. I pretty much run that all off a Logbook of the World, because I want to keep getting confirmations on Logbook of the World and not having to send out the cards all the time.
Right.
So I find that thing really handy. You know, again, and I like to run this a lot in the mornings and the evenings, you know, sunset and sundown when DX conditions are better at the gray line. And, you know, I can be watching TV, watching a game, balancing the checkbook, doing something, and this thing keeps an eye on it and gives me that audible alert. And again, you can do that for states, grid squares, you know, you name it. This works on 6 meters and 2 meters, so it's got a lot of flexibility. So we're going to make another contact here and show you how the logging works. So again, we're using N3FJP, the Amateur Contact Log. I think this supports several other logs, but this is really the best logging package around. You know, we use it for field day and contests, and it's really the right one to use. And
Where do you have it on the screen there? I don't see. Where's your logging program?
You see that now?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, this is called the N3FJP Amateur Contact Log, and this is just for general contacts. This is not for contest or anything. Just everyday contact.
I loaded it in already.
Yeah, this is really good. Make sure you always get the latest version, because once you buy this, he'll support it forever. Yeah, any of this software, make sure you get the latest version. So this last contact we made, I'll have to go in here and manually enter it later on. And, you know, again, that's really a pain. I want to automate this. So we're going to, I guess our frequency is kind of clear. I'm going to pick out somebody here to call. How about W6UB here? He's got a good signal. So we're going to call W6UB. He's in EM75. And I've never memorized these grid squares, but I think that's down south somewhere. This guy might be in Florida. In fact, we should be able to see it down here on the JT-ALERT grid.
Tennessee.
Okay, he just called a Spain station, EA5, and he will not be highlighted in green here. I got to find him. What did you say, Fred?
He's in Tennessee, upper left corner there.
Oh, okay, first one.
Yeah.
All right, he does Logbook of the World. He's in Tennessee.
Yep.
Okay, so I got to wait for him to finish that conversation. So he gave the Spanish station a -9. He gave him an RR73. So now it's my turn, unless somebody else calls it. While we're waiting, here's N3FJP now. It's got him already queued up, W6UB. And it shows that I've worked in before on 80CW up here. So we know that the path to the logger is working. So we got WSJT-X talking to JT-ALERT, talking to N3FJP. Now, while we're doing that, this guy is not getting back to me. Maybe he's paper logging. Now I see a signal up here, so maybe he's getting, no, he's calling CQ again. So let's see what happens. And I may just be on a bad frequency that he can't hear. But normally, as powerful as he is, I would think that I'd get through. Now he's calling somebody else. Let me change this one. Yeah, see, right, I'm on top of somebody. Let's get a better frequency. And we'll call somebody else. Let's call this guy. W2GLH. So he was licensed in New York. Okay, he's in New Jersey, right over here. A lot of those guys have moved south. There's 2 calls, could be anywhere in the country anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's queued up. Nothing happened with that last call. It got dumped. W2GLH is queued up here on N3FJP.
I'm really jealous of you antenna people.
You have restrictions, right?
Very much.
Yeah, I would hate to have to go through that. Okay, he just answered me. W2GLH. He gave me a -11. I'm giving him a -15. And then he should come back with an RRR. And we missed them that time, so I'm sending it again. So, a lot of times you don't get through the first time. There's a lot of congestion up here. So normally you try 3-4 times before you give up. So I'm sending that report back to him again. Like right now, there's this K8NVR on his frequency, and that's making things a little difficult.
Got an Alaska down there.
Okay, yeah, he's getting covered. So we'll give him a few more tries. If he's a good operator, he'll change frequency. He probably doesn't need Ohio that bad. He'll probably just give up. Unless he really wants Medina County. Okay. A lot of times you have to have patience. You know, we got through on the third time. There's so many times I give up and go call another guy, and the guy will come through. So you really got to give them. You got to give them their 3-4 tries. Okay, so we got the window that comes up to log this. Now I'm going to make sure that he doesn't come back here anymore before I do that. 7-3. Okay, we completed that contact. Along with this window, there's a couple things here that you can, there's a couple notes you can put in here. I put the transmit power at 75 watts and I click the retain button because I want that to go into my logger. And I got a comments here. I says, I'm using my K3 and my end-fed half-wave antenna. So I got that checked. So all that information goes up to the logger. So I'm going to move this off the screen and move the logger into the screen. And as soon as I click OK on that logging box, we just logged W2GLH and all the information. So instead of having to manually log these guys and write all this data in there, which is a lot of work, this is all automatic with JT-ALERT. There is some setup work here. Under settings, manage settings. And again, if anybody wants to, we're not going to do this in detail. If anybody wants to do this, I'll be glad to get on the phone and talk you through this. But they got a logging option over here. There's a few options on this checkbook here. What's more important, you go down here to AC log, and I'm using the manual configuration. I have to put in the location of AC log's database. This computer I'm using is named Elecraft 201, and it's under users, documents. It's really buried, but it's not that hard to find. Logdata.mdb. It's a Microsoft MDB file. We're using log type Amateur Contact Log version 6.3, and you have to have the IP address of the computer and the port. Well, we're not going to a different computer. We're just dumping this into the same computer. This computer, I use static IPs on all my computers. So this ends in, this is a 192.168.1.201. That's a local IP. I could have that other IP they use for using the same computer. But once in a while, if I'm in a contest or something, I might want to have that log operating on a different computer. So this might be 202 or 203. It's important that you have the IP address in here and port 1100. So once you set that up, you should be talking to AC log. That's if you set up the option on AC log, which is just one extra setting here. Under settings on AC log, application program interface, API. You have to click this checkbox, TCP API. That's all you got to do. It's already set up for 1100. We looked on card. We looked at JT-ALERT, and it was routed to port 1100. That's all you need to do to get N3FJP up to starting to pull data from another application. And in this case, it's pulling all this data from JT-ALERT. So it's very simple to set up. One other thing you can do here with JT-ALERT, you can actually contact these guys by clicking them on down here. You don't have to click on up here on WSJT-X. A lot of times when I click on up here, I'm getting the wrong guy. I might try to get this guy in Romania. If the cursor's a little too high, I get the guy above him. Once in a while, I'm calling a guy that I don't want to call. It's a little easier down here. I seldom use this, but it should be okay. Yeah, you got to make sure that you click on this box. Now you highlight these, you get a little more information. This guy's out of Alberta, and he's got a -1 signal. He's probably in pretty good shape. We're going to give him a call as soon as he pops up here again. And my frequency, at least it appears to me that I'm clear. Who knows what he's hearing, but we're going to give that a try. And he didn't come up. Let's
Do it in Alaska.
I'm going to try this VO1 up in Newfoundland. Alaska's down here. Let's house. Now, while I was doing all that, this thing timed out. That's one thing about your FT8 program. It's not going to run forever. It won't let you walk away and make calls by itself. You got to be here. So this thing times out. So now we're going to try VO1 OK. We can go back here and look at some of these other guys while we're waiting. So JT-ALERT just gives you a lot more information about these stations. Gives you any kind of alert you want to set up for states, countries, grid squares, whatever you're looking for. And it's got the automatic logging, which is probably the best feature. Okay, I don't think this guy's going to answer, and we really don't need to make another contact here. We'll move on. I don't see anything up here in the green, so I'm gonna stop and abort this one. If you look up here on JT-ALERT, it's running version 2.16.17, which is the latest because I just loaded that in yesterday. I was running an earlier version. They upgrade these a lot. Now and over here on the right, it does say updates. So there are some updates waiting for me. Now, since they know information about these guys, they know here that N600 is from California and he uses Logbook of the World. That's because they've got a database of all this, and periodically you have to download that database. So if we go over to settings and manage settings, we'll go down here to program updates, and it's telling me here JT-ALERT installed version 2.16.17, latest version 2.16.17. I'm good there. Call sign database, installed version December 6th, 2020. There's a new version available, 2.14.2021. I'm not going to do that now because I have to shut the program down, but you know, every month or so you should go in here and fetch that database.
Which
I almost thought it did. I almost thought it did on its own. Somebody have a question?
No, I was just wondering what program was it last that last one you said has a new. You said
Okay,
call sign.
this is JT-ALERT.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's two files. There's a file for the actual program, and it told me I was up to date on that.
yeah,
But it has a database which contains all the information on these calls.
okay, that's
And-
what it was. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you use an old database, maybe somebody moved to a different state. This guy here, W7DO, says South Carolina. Well, maybe in January he moved to Tennessee. I'm getting the wrong information here. So you want to keep the database updated. And again, I thought it did that automatically, but I don't see that happening here. This next program I'm going to show you does, well, it'll prompt you when there's new databases, and it's very easy to update why things are running. So we're going to move on to the next bunch of software we want to run called Dxsuite Lab. I've had this running in the background only because I needed it to run. This is called Dxsuite Lab. They've got about 7 or 8 programs. This stuff is all free. They continually update it. So what I normally run is the DXLAB launcher. And then they got these 7 programs. They got the Commander, DXView, Dxkeeper, which is another logger, and Spot Checker.
which one is the map?
Okay, well, that's what we're getting to.
Okay,
So before we can get to the map, we need to get the Commander up and running. Now, going back to you needed rig control. We're going to go back to our FT8 program, WSJT-X. Normally, you're going to set the radio up under the radio tab here, and I would go to Elecraft K3 and select the port number. But if you look, I've got DXLAB SUITE Commander in here instead. So what's really happening is DXLAB is configured to talk to the radio. Here's K3, port 1. So this Commander is the traffic cop on the serial port going to the radio. Then through some other IP communication here, I'm not sure what they use, TCP or something, the Commander talks to WSJT-X. So what this gives you, it's like well, it really is port sharing. So now you got 2 programs that are able to work with the radio. I even use a 3rd one over and above this, but it's not really relevant to what we're talking about tonight, so I won't get into that one. So right now, we're on 7074, and both these programs will respond. Well, instead of me changing the dial, let's just go down here and go to 80 meters. So the Commander went down to 3573. So did WSJT-X. So they're synchronized with the radio, which again is very important for this to work properly. I'm going to go back to 40. So once this is running, I hide it or I minimize it. I really don't need it anymore. I got to bring up 3 more programs to get the map working. So I'm going to bring up DXView. And I'm going to bring up Dxkeeper is another logging program. I really don't use it except as a last ditch backup, but it's required to run in the background for the map to work. But having backups of logs. It's something really nice. If something goes wrong with your main log, and K2RWO can attest to that, because his MDB file on his N3FJP got corrupted, and he almost lost everything. Luckily, he had done an ADI backup at one time, and we were able to restore his logs. So it's nice to have backups. So we got this logger running here. Now, this logger didn't capture any of those calls we just made here in the last 15 minutes because it wasn't running. I'm just going to minimize that. I don't need that running. All I'm interested in are these two boxes. I need to run one more called Spot Collector. Spot Collector really gathers all this information and sends it to the map. I think you can also send those spots somewhere if you want. These programs have just all kinds of configuration menus that you can do all kinds of stuff with. I'm just using 5–10% of the capability for this. What I really like is the auto logging using JT-ALERT. The alert function when a new country or a new DXCC comes up, or if there's a DXpedition out there, I'll put the call sign in there, because again, you only got a narrow window to work these guys, and you gotta wait another 10 years for them to go back to these rare places. So this will give you that audible alert. Okay, we're starting to build up all the stuff we're receiving over here on the left side of WSJT-X is appearing on the map. And what's nice about this, you can set this up, and then, first thing in the morning, you set this up, you go grab breakfast and coffee and come back here 10–15 minutes later, and you know where the band's open. Right now, we know we got path into Europe. We worked at Switzerland station before. We're all over the States. We're getting into South America. You can hover over each one of these dots. This is CX9AB down here in Uruguay. Israel 4X5KS is coming in. So there's a lot of activity here. We're not getting any activity in Japan or Australia because we're on 40 meters. That's for DX. That's a nighttime band, and that we're not going to get any DX in the sunlight. As far as I know, this map is not adjustable. We can't zoom in or anything. It shows the whole world. It shows the light and dark bands. So right now, 40 meters is a nighttime band, so all the propagation is within the dark area. I like getting the radio on at sun up and sundown, because a lot of times that those DX stations will follow this gray line. Right now, since we're here, we're not really in a gray line situation. But about midnight, 1 in the morning, Europe will be in. When this line is over Europe, that's a really good time for us to work DX in Europe on 160. So at least if one of the stations is on the gray line, it really helps the propagation. And then the last little dot on here, it shows you the position of the sun. So the sun down, it's high noon down here in these Pacific Islands, kind of moving towards Australia. This box up here also gives us additional information on the station we're going to call. Right now, it's got K3QP in there because that's when we called earlier tonight. Let's make one more contact here. This looks fairly open. We'll call this guy in Hungary. He's got a good signal. Okay, so we just clicked him on, and I'm transmitting right now. It put HA7TM up here in the call sign box, identified the country, shows his headings, 46 degrees. I don't have a beam antenna on 40 meters, so that's irrelevant, but if it was a higher band, okay, he's answering us. We got his Latin long. We got a grid here that shows how often we've worked hungry on these bands. Well, since this is a backup system, the grid's empty, but if it was on my main system, I'd have some of these filled in. We got his grid square. He's 4,628 miles away. So we not only get the additional information from JT-ALERT down here, we're getting more information about him up here. And while we're talking here, we just completed the conversation. We had to call him back the second time. Must have been a little interference on there. Again, my transmit looks good here because it's dark, but who knows what he's hearing in Europe. He might be hearing people out of Asia. So this was a good guess, and it looks like it's going to work. And my logging box popped up off screen. I'll bring it back down here. So I'm going to okay that. And that put me, so now I'm logged on N3FJP. And I'm also logged in this logger Dxkeeper, if I can find it.
Right there.
Okay, so this is, like I say, it's a backup log, and we got HA7TM, and it's got all the information there, date, time, 40 meters. Not a lot of information, but it's a backup. If you ever lost your log, you got another log here to depend on. I run this because it helps make the map program work. At one time, I don't think it was necessary. It seems like it is necessary now. So I open it and I just minimize it and forget about it. I seldom use it. So when I'm running FT8, I'm not only running WSJT-X, which is the main FT8 program. We got JT-ALERT for the support down here. And then we got DXLAB with the map. And again, you can come back here a half hour later and say, wow, we might be getting into Africa. We might be getting into Alaska. Right now, this is the propagation we have on 40 meters. If we run down here to 80, it should refresh the map. I'll also erase things here. And this map should be built up slowly again. So it'll take a couple minutes, but it'll start to build up this. And 80 meters is going to have similar propagation, not quite as good probably, but it'll be similar because it's a nighttime band. Now, a lot of times you get dots over here and you won't get these black lines. Those are stations that people are working, but we're not hearing. If we hear them, then this path line will connect them. So I'm not hearing this guy down here in the Persian Gulf, at least not yet. And I don't know if there's really a station here in India. VU2 DED. Okay, he's right on the gray line. I mean, under the right conditions, we might get lucky enough to work him right now because he's sitting on this gray line. I kind of doubt it because the conditions have been bad lately and the sunspot number is 0. Right here, W1L is calling him. So he's obviously receiving him. But I think that guy has a big station. I see him on here working stuff that I can't hear. So I don't think we're going to have any luck with that. If we had some sunspots, we'd probably have a pretty good chance of picking him up. And this gray line window is narrow. You get like 15 to 30 minutes Fred, sometimes on 160, we got about 15 minutes and that's all. When those guys come out of the noise. You'll see people working somebody when the station's in the dark. And when it gets close to the line, all of a sudden it comes up out of nowhere. And we've got 15 minutes to work him on 160. And I mean, it's night and day. He's not there. Then he's S6 or S7 for 15, 20 minutes. Then the sun comes up here and he's gone. So if you're going to work DX on gray line bands, you gotta be ready for a narrow opportunity. That window was much wider on 40 meters and 30 meters. And I think it has some effect on 20. I think it's even wider there, but on the lower bands, that's a lot of times the only way you can work DX on 160 is sunrise and sunset. So another thing that I have going here that I haven't shown you yet is an online program that is not connected to any of this, but it's a world map that shows you a bank of receivers all over the world, and it'll show you where you're getting in, who's hearing you. So I just brought this up a couple minutes ago. This is called PSK Reporter. Very simple to use. I put this on 40 meters. I put my call sign and I hit go. That's all I got to do. Right now, it's going to refresh this report in 2 minutes. But so far, all these little flags, all these little balloons on the map are places that heard me. So when we contacted that guy in Hungary, all these places heard me.
Only the ones with the flag on them there, the minutes.
Yeah, only the one that had the minutes. Yeah, these other ones. Yeah, okay. Well, we go up here to this guy in Alaska. He did hear us, and the balloon on the lower left shows that AL7TC, he got us at a -4. Yeah, we got a good path into Alaska. We go down here, and this was Columbia, HK3. I'm a -14, not doing so well down in Columbia right now. Over in Europe, this is French station, F1 EYG, -13. We probably work him at a -13. Over here farther, Romania, YO7 BPC, -16. We might have had a good shot at that. In 1 minute, this map will refresh. It just did. Okay, so now we got a few more balloons here in the States, not too many in Europe. So even though this map was showing, we're still on 80 meters. Let's go back to 40. Thought I did that. So we're hearing a lot of stations in Europe. According to this map, it looks like there's not so many hearing us, but again, you don't, I have to assume most of these guys have pretty good receiving outfits, or else they wouldn't put them online. And all these balloons are supposed to be active. You got this guy up here in Iceland. Well, either we didn't get into Iceland or he doesn't have the thing turned on right now. So I find this helpful a lot of times. Other times, I don't know how accurate it really is.
I used it today just to find out that I am transmitting. I'm not going to get any answers.
You said you did use it?
Yeah, that's one way to tell my transmitter is working.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you know you got a good antenna. If you're getting out this far, yeah, you don't know if the conditions are that good. You don't know. It looks like we're not getting into Scandinavia at all. So it's just kind of more Central Europe. So the conditions aren't that great. But, you know, again, Diane, you only got one screen but you just minimize this. You just bring it up every once in a while to see where you're getting in. Otherwise, just get rid of it. So if you have the room on the screen to run all this, it's nice. I got a 21-inch monitor here, and that's nice. This would be difficult on a laptop.
Mhm.
But at least if you can get the JT-ALERT up and running and get it to talk to your logging program, and also get your rig to talk to WSJT-X, things will work a lot better, and you won't have to paper log or manually log anymore. You make 10 contacts, you're done. It's already in the log. Now, I believe that either JT-ALERT or Dxsuite, or maybe they both will, they can automatically upload you to Logbook of the World, which some guys use. You work them, 5 minutes later, you log in the LOTW, and they're there, because on a constant basis, they're uploading Logbook of the World every time they make a contact. I don't do that because a lot of times we get busted calls, and I don't know whether they went through or not, and I might want to go back and analyze them. I want to make sure I'm sending good data up to Logbook of the World. So I haven't used that feature yet, and I'm not sure I will. The same goes for EQSL. This thing can do auto upload to EQSL, and I don't have the flag set up for EQSL. I think it could be a little flag over here on the upper right, but the Logbook of the World flag on the upper left is what's important to me.
What are the other programs in DXLAB?
This one's called Pathfinder. I've never used it. I downloaded it, but I've never used it. This one's called Propagation View. I haven't used it yet either. You know, it's probably all good stuff I should check out, but I just haven't had a chance. The last one is Wind Warbler, and that's a program that works a lot like FLDigi. Would allow you to run PSK and some other digital modes, maybe RIDI. I've dabbled with that just a little bit. I'd like to do more with it. And that's one of the reasons why you have to have rig control on DXLAB, especially if you want to work that. The rig control is necessary for logging, but it would be really necessary for this Wind Warbler. So I've installed all of them except for this Propagation View, and each one of these boxes has a configuration screen. There's just a lot of stuff to configure, but most of it I've left alone because a lot of the options I'm just not I'm not interested in. So last thing I want to show you guys is, if you don't already know where your log files are back here in WSJT-X, open log directory.
Mhm.
I'm going to minimize the map here for a second. I created a shortcut because I go in there all the time to make sure my logging program's working properly, and that if you were running nothing but WSJT-X, your log is here. This is a big ADI file. This is my ADI file from when I got started on this back in 2018 in July. Remember July 2018, Fred?
Oh, yeah.
K8 that was the last big expedition we worked. That was the Baker Howland. They went out there with a tribute to Amelia Earhart because that's where she disappeared.
Right.
That's the first time I really got into using FT8, and yeah, they were using the Foxhound mode, and yeah, I worked them a lot. that was in the middle of summer, which wasn't ideal time, but that was the only time they could get to the island. So go down to the bottom here. The last thing we worked tonight was HA7TM out of Hungary. So this is all in the ADI format, and I could load this into N3FJP or many other loggers just from this. So this is another logging backup. So if you're not running any of the support programs for WSJT, and this guy's your log. That thing is very important. If you run more than one computer, you got to make sure that you merge these together. You're going to have a log file on one computer and one on the other. And I do that from time to time. And I have a file copy program running in the background to keep the two synchronized. Other than that, you got to, what I'm running, I don't have that running right now. So these contacts I made tonight, I'm going to have to paste in my other log, which is not a big deal. I try to keep my logs up to date. There's one other file on here, this text file called all. Has anybody ever used that?
I haven't.
It's a huge file. It is a history of everything you ever looked at over in this screen on WSJT-X. So I'm gonna clear this out right now. But everything we did here earlier tonight, everything I've done in the past 2 years that ever appeared on this screen is stored in this all file. It is a big file. Okay. Now, right now, HA7TM is making a contact or trying to call this WA7. If I close this out and open it, that should be at the bottom of the file. Sometimes it takes a few seconds to open because it's huge. It's 10 megabytes. It's just a big text file. And this one is not from my day one. They get so big, I break them up. Every couple of months, I'll archive one and I'll start a new one. And actually, it didn't pick that up. I don't know why. I probably didn't wait long enough. But anyway, this has the complete history of everything you ever did. What's handy about that is a lot of times you have a broken call.
Those are all received files. I don't see any transmit.
It's receive and transmit.
I didn't see any transmit.
Nothing's in color here. Let's do this. Let's go up. Okay, now I'm looking at, this is still all today's date, 2/19. This is everything tonight that came through on the right side of that file. Okay, I'm going to do a search for HA7TM, the guy that we worked. And here he is calling a 989. Sooner or later, we'll find where we called him. He's been busy tonight. He's been on here a lot. What I should search out. Oh, okay, so both call. Okay, so here's when I called him.
Yeah, I see transmit.
So this has a history of everything that went on over here. I really don't care about this other stuff, but I care about the calls I was in. So let's say I sent the R04 back to him and he didn't respond to me. And I didn't get this RR73, and then a minute later he's calling somebody else. So did I have a contact or not? Did he send the RR73 and he was just covered up? So I don't know if I'm in his log or not. If this was a really important contact, I would research it further. I might go online and check his online log to see if he acknowledged it. I may temporarily log it and send it up the logbook of the world to see if he logs it. Because if this was a real rare one, I wouldn't want it to get away. What I really use it for is I've gone back over, I've got thousands of contacts on EQSL that I've never answered, and I'm trying to make a point of going back and answering them. So I went back to January and February of last year, and I had like 200 contacts in February. So I uploaded my log, and it came back with 6 of them didn't match. And I wasn't really interested. I didn't really need these guys. It was an Italy station or a French station, but yeah, they might have needed a contact from me. So I went on here and actually searched out that date and time when the busted call went through. And if I see enough information here and he confirmed it on his end, then I'll add it to my log manually and I'll confirm it to him. I'm just kind of doing him a favor. So in that case, that's what I use this for most of the time, is just to confirm other people that, they got me in the log. I didn't know that they got me in the log. But again, if it's a rare station that I may not get another chance at, I'm going to go investigate it, because just because I didn't get the RR73 doesn't mean that he didn't send it. And if he sent it, I'm in his log. So this all file, if you run FT8 a lot, this all file will be huge. I think the last time I archived it, October 31st. So I've got about 4 months worth of data here, and this is a 10 meg file. I'm just about ready to archive this and start it over again. And I just keep them all. So if I get somebody that says they made a call with me 2 years ago, I'll go into the archive and look it up. The last thing, I think I said that was the last thing I was going to show you. There is one other thing.
He lies a lot.
All men lie. Right, Gail?
Right.
That's what Dr. House says.
Yeah, I only fib.
I only make statements that prove later on to be untrue. That's a better way to say it. Okay. Fred, have you ever used a text message window?
No.
I didn't know this existed until somebody sent me a message one day. I think I contacted a Japanese guy. The Japanese guys love Logbook of the World. And they love EQSL. They're just nuts about it. And this box popped up from the guy I just worked, and he said, "Please, Logbook of the World, thanks for the contact." So I didn't do anything to set this up. It automatically runs. I don't think you can even shut it off. Obviously HA7TM's not using it because he's offline. But if I click on some of these other guys, they'll show online. So I've gotten about 10, 12 messages over the course of a year. It doesn't happen very often. The most important message I ever got is KH2L. That's that guy out in Guam, and he works the low bands. I worked him one day on 80 meters, and it's kind of tough to work Guam on 80 meters. The conditions had to be right. And I wasn't able to complete the call. I didn't get that RR73 back from him. And he went on and started working other guys, and I didn't know whether I worked him or not. He was nice enough to send me a message that I got you in my log, 7-3. So that was, he's a pretty good operator out there. He works all the bands. I finally got him on 160 back in January. I think that's the last new one that I've scooped up. And that one did go clean, but he heard me, but some knucklehead probably got on top of his frequency and started calling somebody else before he could return that RR73. Some of these guys really don't watch where they transmit. They just jump on here. Yeah, they don't look for the dark spots. So anyway, this thing has come in handy. Now, most of this you do not have to be on the internet to use. This function you have to be, because this is a text message that goes over the web. You can run WSJT-X without being on the internet. Same thing with JT-ALERT. You won't get your updates, but it'll run fine. DXLAB, I'd have to pull the Ethernet out to see. I might lose some functionality, but most of this stuff will work without an internet connection. Diane, you said you got DSL, that's not very fast.
Right.
I don't think you'll have a problem running any of this with DSL. And if you do update your databases, you're going to do that on a quiet time. So the one thing nice about DXLAB Launcher here, this gray area, if there's program updates or database updates, it'll alert you here. And you just click it on, it brings up the window. You may have to close if it's got an updated database for DXView. You probably have to close it. You do the update, it takes about 5 seconds, and you reopen the program. All this stuff works really, really well. It hardly ever glitches. So this is the normal screen that I use for running FT8. Get my logging, my alerts, my map, a little bit more information, headings, distance, you know, just sometimes FT8 gets a little boring and you want to start looking at some other stuff because you're really not, the computer's doing all the work. Unless the guy's having trouble getting through, then you got to find another frequency, or if you're running Foxhound, then you have a little bit more involvement. So at this point in time, I think that is all I have.